appreciate one cell. Everything, when we take a sample of, no matter how fine or how thin you make a section of your body, it will always be, when you make a preparation, a slight preparation of your body, it will always be as part of a tissue histology. No, you see, even at the atomic level, you saw how atoms are not able to exist on their own. The atoms that we find in the body, even the cells, they can't function independently. There's no cell in the body that's a stand-alone cell. All of them, they need one another. See, at the cellular level, we can't be alone, right? That's why my husband cannot live without me. That's how I want that sentence to be read, okay? So, that's the the topic today, histology, chapter 4. Now, definition of terms. Don't forget your definition of terms, okay? Atom, cell. Now, 2 or more cells make up a tissue. Histology. A group of cells that perform a special function. Oh, there it is, okay? So, as far as tissue is concerned, you should know that there are 4 basic tissue types. And here it is. Epithelium, connective, muscle, and nervous tissue. You know, if they all did the same thing, if it was just one general job, we'll just call them all tissues. But they have their own job. Just by looking at this slide, you see, look at connective, protects, stores energy. You don't see this function here, or here, or here. You don't see, detects changes, you don't see it for this one. They have their own job. We need them. They all function as a team. You see? That's why you need to memorize by heart the 4 basic tissue types. All the way to Bio 242. If you know how each and every one of them works, you will master your A and B. In my opinion, because everything, all the functions of your body systems depends on the predominant tissue type that they contain. You understand? So, besides, there will be a section in your final exams where you will be asked, please give me the basic tissue type of the following structures. Maybe I'll say the superficial part of your skin. So you're going to write epithelium. If you don't know your tissues, you're just going to write epidermis, and that's wrong. Okay? So look at what epithelium does. Of these tissue types, only epithelium is visible to the eye because this is the one that covers and it lines, which means any part of the body where there is an exposed surface, you know that's epithelium. Like in your GI tract, right here, your stomach, right? You take out your stomach right there, you're wondering, what is the tissue type right here? That must be epithelium because there's an exposed surface. Because what's the function of epithelium? It covers, it lines. Because it's the one that covers and lines, it must be the one that secretes. Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. You secrete something. So your glands are also epithelium. Okay? What do you think? I'm thinking that epithelium must also be the one of the tissue types, must also be the one that functions in absorption, right? Like your nutrients. What tissue type will absorb your nutrients must be epithelium because it's the one that's exposed. You understand? Mm-hmm. Connective tissue, this is the most abundant tissue type. So, the one thing, if you know this one, that it's lining. If you know, I know you know how muscle looks like, and I know you know nerves. If it's not this, or this, it must be connective tissue. is the most abundant and most varied in its appearance. Like bone is connective tissue, blood is connective tissue. We're going to look at them one by one. Then muscle. Look at what muscle does. We know that it contracts, right? So we can move. It also generates heat. Don't forget that muscle is the one that generates heat. So if you notice some people who have a stroke, maybe that part of the body, you have to put a blanket there. It's cold. There's no more. It lost its ability to generate heat. Okay? And the nervous tissue is the one that detects changes to maintain homeostasis. Okay? So let's look at them one by one. Epithelium. Because it's the one that lines and covers. First of all, I want to figure out, or do you agree? If it's the one that lines and covers, the epithelium, being a tissue made up of cells, it must be made up of cells that's attached to one another. It doesn't serve a purpose. If they're widely spaced apart, how can they form an effective covering, right? So there must be ways to attach them to one another. Their attachment is called cell junction. This is nothing but like the glue or the paste that holds them together. And these cell junctions are mainly proteins. See, they're contact points. So I'm going to go to this nice picture over here of epithelium. See, this is epithelium. I know it's epithelium because there's a surface on top. And they're tightly packed. What keeps them attached? If they're not attached, they'll fall off. Okay? So the first cell junction is your tight junction, writing with a capital T. So it looks like an umbrella. So the tight junction are the apical junctions right there on top. They're nothing but proteins, okay? And they create a firm or very effective barrier to prevent the cells from being affected by whatever is on top. Okay? That's what the tight junctions do. They bind right here, the apical surface. But I like to write capital T so you remember it's your umbrella on top. Okay? Now, there's another one called adherence. You adhere to one another. So I'm thinking it's right here, side to side or lateral. This is where you find your adherence junctions. Okay? I'm going to go back to the different types of junctions. Right here, adherence junction. They adhere to one another. And then you have this hemi. The hemi looks like a fence, the letter H, right? And the fence, you push it down. And that's where you will find the junction that anchors them to the underlying tissue. So like a fence. You push the fence down. I'll go back to this picture over here. So in this picture, this is where I'll find my hemi junction, my fence. Whatever will work for you. I remember I asked this in the lab exam. Okay? The hemi junction. Top, side. Drawing a top. Adhere to one another. I think the only one that maybe you'll forget is the desmosome. Desmosome. This is also side to side. The way I tried to look at it, that's the belly. So the belly is always in the way when you want to talk. So I don't know, whatever will work for you. But desmosomes are also there. Okay? They're like a belt, but they help to adhere side to side. There's one more type of junction called gap junction. Gap junction. What is the function of? They have gaps or openings. That's why it's called a gap junction. So through the gaps is how your cells are able to share the wealth or distribute whatever nutrients they want to distribute. Or if this was maybe in your heart, that's how the pacemaker travels very quickly so that the heart will contract as if it was just one muscle cell. Okay? Okay? You understand? So, now we get to this part of the slide. What makes epithelium epithelium? Here are the different key features or characteristics of epithelium. I call it epithelium because it's very cellular. So all the slides of epithelium right here, you see them, you notice they're very cellular. They're tightly packed. That's a characteristic of epithelium. Then there's a free space, of course. Polarity. Polarity means the surfaces look different. So that's why you have to know and identify the apical surface, which is the one that's in contact or exposed to the lumen. Then this is the basal surface. This is the lateral surface. You will notice in your slides, some of them will have cilia right here on top, but no cilia here, no cilia here. Polarity. Maybe over here, look at here, the nucleus is more towards here, but not there. So that's why they have that polarity property. Okay? Next, attachment. This makes sense, right? If they had no way to be attached to the underlying tissue, then they'll fall off. By gravity, look at your skin alone. Your skin is epithelium. If it's not attached by what? Hemidesmosome, right? It will fall off. So it has to be attached. Now, very important for you to know, especially when we study the next chapter 5, your integumentary system, avascularity. It has no blood supply of its own. None. So that's why you will see that the topmost layer of epithelium must be dead. Like your skin, right? They say it's dead skin. That's why we shed our skin. Why did it die? Because it doesn't have any blood supply. So it will die. Isn't it? We get our nutrients, our nourishment from your blood. What about this regeneration? Do you agree? Because epithelium is the one that's exposed of the 4 basic tissue types. This is the one that's exposed. So it's the one that's most prone to being damaged. Yes? Right? So it's the one that constantly dies. So they have to have a high rate of cell division to regenerate. They have a good nerve supply. And this one makes sense. Can you imagine if your epithelium doesn't have a good nerve supply? You're already feeling something hot. You're already being cut open, and you don't even feel anything. That's dangerous. You're going to harm your internal structures. So this explains all the characteristics of epithelium. How do we classify epithelium? You can classify them according to the shape of the cell or the number of layers. So you will say, if it's just one layer of cells, you'll say it's a simple epithelium. If it's many layers, you say it's stratified epithelium. This pseudo-stratified is just a fake, right? Pseudo. So it's really just one cell layer. So if you look at all the cells, they all reach to the top. But they're like crowding one another. So it looks like it's many layers, but it's just one cell layer. Pseudo-stratified. Okay? Then you can also classify it according to shape. What you did, your cheek swab, that's a squamous cell. So flat is squamous. If it's round like this with a round nucleus, cuboidal. And then this is columnar. So you will say simple squamous, simple cuboidal, simple columnar. If it's many layers, whatever the shape of the topmost layer of cells is, that's the name. So you say stratified squamous, stratified cuboidal, okay? But we are going to stick with your list, your histology worksheet. We're just going to stick with the list of epithelium that you're going to draw here. You're only going to draw one example of stratified, which is stratified squamous. Then you will draw the transitional epithelium, which is unique to your urinary bladder. So let's look at this epithelium. First of all, what do you think? Can you guess what can a simple layer of epithelium do for you that stratified epithelium cannot do for you?
Let more nutrients.
Yes, very good. Like exchange will happen here, right? That maybe they can do some secretion, absorption. This is how you're going to answer the lab exam. There will always be follow-up questions. Maybe I'll ask you, what can this do that the other one cannot do? How about this one? What can many layers do for you that simple cannot do? Yes, mainly protection, right? Your skin must be what? Simple or stratified? The skin is stratified. So in your lungs, where there's exchange of gases, must be simple. Very good. So what do you think? For exchange, what's the better type of simple epithelium for exchange? Can you guess?
Pseudo.
No. What's the best type of simple epithelium for exchange? Yes, don't you think so? Because it's so flat.
What does that say down there? Squamous?
Yeah. This must be for absorb, secrete. This is actually your glands. This is how they look like. You see, just by looking at the shape, you already know. Okay? Now let's look at how they all look like. First, and this is what you're going to draw. They're already focused for you. Don't move the slide. A lot of the students, what they do, they take pictures with their phones and then they just draw. And Joel even said, they look just like what you have in your lab manual. So now you take out your lab manual, this one right here, and you follow. You look at your drawings right here. Simple squamous epithelium. So look at the simple squamous epithelium right here. And it's pointing to the layer of flat cells. It looks like this. See? You see there's this is another tissue type. This is just you see the arrow? So this is what it's referring to. Just one layer, see? The one layer, and it's flat, simple squamous epithelium. This is a surface view. This is how you did your cheek swab, but this is not what you're going to see in your lab exam. This is what you'll see right there. Okay? Simple squamous epithelium. See the flat fried egg? Okay? And so, specimen name, simple squamous epithelium. Specimen origin, it is not monkey or human, right? You're going to tell me where you find it. So where is there exchange? I'm thinking my lungs. There's exchange in my lungs. You can write lungs. You look for it in your textbook. But here, even in your drawing, it's already giving you where you find it here. Venule, which is your vein. So that's one location. Okay? And then under total magnification, what are you going to write? 400. They're all focused under 400. Okay? Next, look at your simple cuboidal. One layer, cuboidal. So, does this function in filtration, exchange? No. This is the one for exchange. Just one layer. Okay? I'm going to show you a very nice epithelium. This is your lungs, your alveolus. See, it's simple squamous epithelium. It's just one layer. You find that in your lungs. All these tissues that we're studying, you find it in your body, all over your body. Okay? Next, and this is another example of simple cuboidal. If I say identify, you're going to say simple cuboidal epithelium. Maybe I'll say identify this specific surface. So you're going to write that's the basal surface. Then what's cell junctions? Anchor this to the underlying tissue so it won't fall off. Hemidesmosomes. Maybe I'll ask you identify this one. You say the nucleus. And then maybe I'll ask what's the function or how many, if this was, maybe I'll ask another question. What's the most abundant inorganic compound here in every cell? What? Water. Very good. You don't even have to think, right? Water is the most abundant inorganic always. What if I ask, what's the most abundant organic compound? Yes, protein. Okay? So don't forget those two. Or maybe I'll ask, this is a cell that makes up your thyroid gland. If this cell was going to divide, how many cells will be produced after? Yes, two. Because you will remember mitosis. And meiosis producing 4 cells, but this is mitosis. So when you take the lab exam, you always have to bring your knowledge from your lecture. In the past, just this past class, 241, 75% of the students got 100 and above in the first lab exam. So I hope it will be the same. Maybe no, not, maybe better for your group, okay? Hopefully. So this is simple columnar epithelium. So you see, one layer of columnar cells. Not this one, okay? This one. Do you notice right here, you see that microvilli? See, there's a fuzziness to the apical surface, which you don't see here. So the microvilli is the extension of the cell itself, okay? That facilitates in increasing the surface area. That's what you see in your digestive tract. So it's able to absorb the nutrients better. More surface area, more chances for you to absorb what you just ate. Okay? And I asked how many layers of cells? Just one. Simple columnar epithelium. Do you pay attention to this one, the goblet cells? There's a nicer view of simple columnar epithelium right here. Right here, okay? Look at this one. This is typical in your GI tract. You know that your GI tract is always exposed to the food that we eat, sometimes acidic, sometimes very hot, whatever. So they're prone to damage. So the way that your GI tract protects itself is by secreting lots of mucus. You know what mucus is?
Mm-hmm.
And so some of the columnar cells here, their job is to make mucus, and that's the mucus. And look at, this is the columnar cell that made the mucus. Doesn't it look like a goblet? That's why they call it goblet cells. It's shaped like a goblet cell, but it's nothing but a columnar cell, except that its job is to make mucus. I like to point here and I'll say identify the structure under the pointer, and you're going to write mucus. What is the composition of mucus? Is it carb, protein, or fat? What do you think? Is it a carb? Is it protein or fat? Mucus. What? What? Fat?
Protein.
Yes, protein. Then, maybe I'll ask, what are the basic building blocks of that compound? For protein, what's the basic building blocks of proteins?
And N.
Which is amino acid. Very good. Then maybe I'll ask, because you know it's protein, how did the cell make that? You're going to write protein synthesis. That's the bulk of the life of every cell, protein synthesis. Right? And protein synthesis happens in what phase? Interphase. So many questions can be asked with just one slide. Okay? And again, please don't be worried. If you're studying very well for your lecture, I'm sure you'll do well in the lab. If they did very well, you will also. Okay? Besides, there's also lab number 2, lab number 3. So there's plenty of opportunity to catch up. Okay? Okay, next. So review your protein synthesis, okay? The 2 steps, transcription, translation, what happens in transcription, what happens in translation, then the organelles, your ribosome, your ROP-ER, and then your Golgi body. Here's another type of simple. It's ciliated. So this is pseudostratified, ciliated columnar epithelium. You see the difference? The cilia is hairy, okay? There's only one slide that I'm asking you to draw that is ciliated. What does that mean? It means in the lab exam, if you see a slide with cilia, you don't even have to think. It's automatic already. You know that it's pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. Does it make sense? That's the only one I'm asking you to draw. The scope of the lab exam is just everything that I'm asking you to draw in your histology drawing. This is the only one with cilia. A favorite of mine is I will always point to the cilia. I'll say identify the structure under the pointer. What is it? You're going to say cilia. Maybe I'll ask you, what's the function of cilia? What's the function of cilia?
To move liquids across the top.
Yes, correct. To move substances across the cell. Then maybe I'll ask you, in your respiratory tract, if this gets injured, can you give me one common symptom that the individual will manifest? Yes, cough, right? So your respiratory tract, you see, this is your respiratory tract. You have goblet cells here that secrete mucus, right? And so your respiratory tract is lined with mucus. And you do know that we always inhale microscopic particles. And it's open from your nose all the way to your lungs. Can you imagine if those bacteria all the way goes down and enters your blood? Because your lungs, that's where the blood goes to pick up the oxygen. So it's very important. Those two things here, the goblet cells making mucus and the cilia, they're very important. The mucus from the goblet cell, it traps, it's sticky. So that's the bacteria gets stuck in there. And then at the same time, the cilia will brush it up. So when you swallow, you're always swallowing phlegm. But then the smokers, when that gets damaged, they start to cough it up every so often. You understand? Okay.
So when people spit out all that nasty stuff, that's protein?
Some of it's, and then there's bacteria also, right? Why do you say nasty?
Just the way it looks, the sound, it's just gross.
There's a lot in us that looks nasty, right? But God gave us those features to help us. But you know, we don't notice it because we keep on swallowing it. It's only when it gets damaged, then you see it. Disgusting. Okay? Okay, next. We look at stratified. So we're done with simple. Don't forget. Oh, another favorite question of mine. Don't forget. When you see cilia, you don't even have to think. The answer is pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. There is no other slide that I'm asking you to draw with cilia. I like to always ask, how many layers of cells do you see here? You will say one. It's just one. Okay? It's pseudostratified. I hope you will all get that. Next, stratified. Many layers. So I am only asking you to draw stratified squamous. I'm not asking you to draw stratified cuboidal, stratified columnar. This is just so you know how a stratified epithelium looks like. Look at this one. The deeper layer of cells is round, yes, but the topmost is flat. So I'll say stratified squamous epithelium. And you know what stratified can do for you that simple cannot, right? What did you say? What is the function of stratified? Protection. Don't forget that word protection when we study our integumentary system. This protective function, do you agree? This gets compromised every time we get sunburn, right? When you get sunburn, your skin peels. So, can you imagine? God gave us these many layers because these many layers is what it takes to protect your internal organs. So when it gets desquamated from sunburn, don't you think that you are compromising your fourth, right? It's weakened. And that's dangerous. We're going to study that when we take up chapter 5. Okay? Next. So you're not going to be shown, you don't have to draw this one or this one. We're not going to include that in our lecture. This one I want you to draw. Transitional epithelium. This is also stratified, except it's named transitional because you only find it, found only in your urinary system, the bladder. So yes, it's many layers, but the topmost, see, it's very easy to distinguish which one is stratified squamous and which one is transitional. I call this balloon-shaped cells. The reason why it's called transitional is because it transitions from many layers when your bladder is empty to maybe a few layers when the bladder is full. Okay? So be sure you identify that. Do you agree that of the 4 basic tissue types, which one do you think will have the higher or highest rate of cancer? Huh?
Is it the epithelium?
Very good. Why? Because what?
It's most exposed. though.
That's very good, right? What is cancer? Cancer is abnormal growth. This one, for one thing, I know that epithelium has the highest rate of cell division. I already know from chapter 3 that muscle cells cannot divide. So it's impossible to have cancer of muscle. Nerve cells cannot divide. So nervous tissue, no. You may have cancer of the brain, but that involves the other cells, not the nerve cells. Okay? Then, this one is exposed. Isn't that what happens? Constant traumatizing, then they have to adapt to whatever environment they're being exposed to, and in the process, they then may become cancer. I may ask you that, why? This one has the highest rate of cancer, why? This one has the highest rate of cell division, why? Always why? And you know, because it's exposed. Damaged, it's always being damaged. Okay? Now we go to your, so the other epithelium is called glands. Glands are also epithelium. So as far as glands are concerned, there are 2 general classes of glands. You have exocrine glands and endocrine glands, which they make hormones. So endocrine glands will be taken up in Bio 242, the endocrine system. For this class, we're just going to concentrate on our exocrine glands. And this is how they look like. See, they are simple tubular, simple branch. You are not going to be required to label them or identify which one is which. Okay? But this is how they do it. These are the cells. So what type of cell is this one? What do you think? Simple what? Simple squamous? Is this simple squamous? What is it? Simple? Yes, it's simple cuboidal. Very good. So they will make, let's say, sweat. They will make the sweat and then dump it here. And then that's how you release it to the port. That's why you start sweating. It's always exposed. Even your milk, mammary glands. So they make the milk, store it here. Then when the baby sucks, it comes out. Okay? What I want you to know as far as glands are concerned is how you classify them according to function. So you should know what's an holocrine gland and merocrine glands. Not even the apocrine. The apocrine is nothing but merocrine. They're the same.
Can you write those on the board for us?
There,
I
holocrine.
can't see how it's spelled.
Holocrine. And then there's merocrine.
Lero.
Okay?
M-E-R-O. Okay, where's the paper?
So merocrine, what's the difference between the two? Merocrine secretion, see, they release their products by exocytosis. The example of this one is your sweat glands. It's the most common. Your milk, it's by merocrine secretion. With holocrine, this is your oil glands, your sebaceous glands. Holo for whole. The whole cell becomes the secretion actually. So look at, compare this one and this one. This one has higher rate of cell division because the whole cell becomes the oil that you secrete. Whereas this one, they just make the sweat and release it by exocytosis. So don't forget that maybe, yes?
Sorry. The one that becomes oil, could that be found in your hair follicles? Like you have hair?
Wherever you have oil, yeah. Yes, wherever you have oil, you will find sebaceous glands, or which is a holocrine type of secretion. Another favorite question of mine, by the way, let's say over here, you say identify simple cuboidal, and then maybe I'll say this is what makes up your thyroid gland. It makes thyroid hormones. How does it release the thyroid hormones? Into the lumen or the duct. Don't forget, you should know what a lumen is. So how do substances release their products? What's that process of releasing products? What did you say?
Exocytosis.
Yeah, that's it. Exocytosis. How do they absorb?
Endosynthesis.
Yes, that's it. So don't even have to sweat for the answer. I'm just trying to figure out if you know your terms.
So what about the people that don't sweat?
What do
Is
you
there
mean the
some-
people
is
that
there
don't
s-
sweat?
Well, like my grandma, for example,
There
she
is-
doesn't sweat. Is there something wrong?
No, there's nothing wrong with your grandma. It's just there's the insensible sweat, so you just don't see it. We all sweat. We all sweat, even though you don't think you're sweating. We all sweat. That's part of thermoregulation. Does your grandma, her body temperature is the same still, right? She sweats. That's the way you regulate your body temperature. Okay? If she's no longer, if she's getting a fever or always very hot, you know that her sweat glands are not working. But I know her sweat glands are working. I know your grandma. I don't. Next, basic tissue type, connective tissue. This is the most abundant basic tissue type. So don't forget. Of course, if you don't know your anatomy, you're going to have a problem answering that set of questions in the final exam. There will always be a section that you will be asked to give the basic tissue type of the following. Let's say your sweat gland. So you should write epithelium, right? Your epidermis is epithelium. Oh, I don't write epidermis, by the way. I'm going to write the superficial part of the skin. Then someone will write epidermis. Wrong. It's not epithelium. Okay? So, in the lecture test, sometimes I'm considerate, well, not sometimes, but a lot of times I'm considerate in the lecture test. But in the final exams, wrong is wrong. Okay? I'm trying to train you because when you start working in the field that you have chosen, the wrong reading, when you read it wrong, it can cost the life of your patient. So you have to be really very specific. So, and you need to know your anatomy. If I say, what's the basic tissue type of your rhomboids? Some people will write nervous tissue because they forget that it's muscle. So you have to know your anatomy. Okay? So this is the most abundant basic tissue type. It connect. Why is it connective tissue? So we figured out right up here for epithelium, I know that I can classify this as epithelium if it is cellular, polarity, etc. Now, I'm going to look at the characteristics of connective tissue. Connective tissue is connective tissue because there are cells that are spaced apart. I will see fibers in connective tissue and there is ground substance. You familiar with the Osteobiflex, the glucosamine, right? A lot of the old people take that osteobiflex. That's the ground substance right here. The composition of ground substance is actually glycosaminoglycans. I know you can guess what that is. Glycose, which is sugar, amino.
Protein.
Yeah, so why don't you just eat a healthy sugar and protein diet, right? Healthy nutrition guide pyramid, you don't need your osteobiflex. Plus water. So maybe a point here, identify. You're going to write, that's the ground substance. What's the most abundant inorganic compound here?
Water.
Again, most abundant organic compound? Yes, that's it. You don't have to sweat when you, and by the way, we're going to have a practice lab exam, so don't worry. But my practice lab exam is PowerPoint. Your actual lab exam is microscope. Okay?
So the ground substance, is that all that open space?
Yes!
And
It's like the jello that holds them in place right there.
and when what's the specific name of it? The glyco.
Glycosaminoglycans. Who can spell it for an extra? Thank you. Extra thank you. Extra 1 point. Spell it.
Say it one more time.
Glycosaminoglycans.
Okay. GLYCOAMINOGLYEA.
There's something
Why?
missing.
No.
Glycos. C-O-S.
Okay,
Then
I have that there.
aminoglycans. Very good. Am I going to ask you that in the test? No.
Not the specific name, or just how to spell it.
No. No, not. I'm going to not just ask you. Okay. There will also be cells. What are the different cells that you can possibly find in connective tissue? Here they are. For Bio 241, we concentrate on this one. Fibroblast. Sounds like fiber. You remember that connective tissue has fibers. Where did those fibers come from? From the fibroblast. I call this the godfather. From here comes the fibers. So look at this. I'm going to go back here. You don't have to write all the cells. I'll tell you what to write. Look at this. There's your fibroblast. You see? As it makes, initially the nucleus of the fibroblast is very nice and round like this. But as it makes the fiber, the nucleus is going to be pulled by the fiber that it makes. Okay? The fibers are your color. We're going to talk about the different fibers. Next, the next cell I want you to know for 241, adipocytes. What is this? Fat. Yes, that's the fat cell. It makes it, that's where your fat is stored. In what type of organelle? Did you forget? Inclusion bodies, right? That's where the fat is stored. Inclusion bodies, don't forget that for your lecture test number 1. It stores fat or pigments. Then, know this, mesenchymal cells, which is nothing but a fancy word for stem cells. Stem cells. So, do you buy chicken? Raw chicken, right? The skin of the chicken. If you pull the skin of the chicken, there's that cobweb structure right there. That's the same as us. Our skin has that cobweb, is called fascia, between your skin and the adipose that we already have there. So where did that adipose come from? From the stem cells. We have stem cells. So if we eat a lot of fat, first, our adipose will pack the fat in there, but once they're full, you can just make more and more and more. That's the problem, right? It reminds me of the Sultan of Brunei used to be our patient when I was practicing in the Philippines, and every so often, I will see in the chart that he was admitted again. For what? Liposuction. Then he doesn't watch his diet. Eat. Then again, come in again for liposuction. Why? You have that. You understand? Okay? They can just, it's a stem cell. Melanocytes, you will see in chapter 5, they make melanin. And then these other cells right here, you will see them or you appreciate them when we take up chapter 17, your blood, which is next quarter. Okay? The fibers. What are the fibers that you find in connective tissue? There's 3. Collagen. I know the girls no collagen because we like to put collagen cream. You will see in chapter 5, you figure out, you find out if collagen works or not. This is the most abundant fiber. Did you know that your bone is collagen? Right? So write down in your notes before I forget. In your skin, if you injure your collagen fibers, your problem is you will have sagging skin. So collagen is responsible for the tautness of your skin. Look at you. You're also very pretty. You're still young. But look at me. So my collagen, old. Okay? So I will have sagging skin no matter what I do. So my mother always pulls her face like that to prevent it. So, but nothing you can do. Okay? Next, elastic. You know elastic rubber band, right? So elastic fibers, it's the one that stretches, right? And then when you let go of the rubber band, doesn't it go back to its shape? Okay? So in your skin, if this gets injured, I'm thinking you're going to have wrinkles and your stretch marks. If you have that, that's because the elastic fibers are damaged. Okay? So, like, and elastic fibers are very prone to UV damage and cigarette smoke. Okay? And then reticular fibers is like the container for the oranges when you buy orange, the net-like sieve. That's how your reticular fibers look like. They function in filtering. So your lymph nodes, your liver, where a lot of the rejects, the unwanted enemies, they get filtered out there. You have a lot of white blood cells there. They're like your police officers. If there's any bacteria that's passing through the lymph node, they get trapped when your reticular fibers, giving your white blood cells time to figure out if this doesn't look like your own cell, they stop them from causing any damage. Okay? So let's look at our different connective tissue. Look at this. See? It doesn't look like epithelium. You see, this is areolar connective tissue. This is the least specialized connective tissue and the most widely distributed. What does that word least specialized mean? Of all the connective tissue types, this is the one that has the highest probability that you will find all the cells that can be found in connective tissue. You see the fibers. See, now I know it's connective tissue. Cells spaced apart, I see the fibers. I like to point to this one. Identify the structure under the pointer. You'll write collagen fiber. Maybe I'll ask you, what's the composition of this one? It's mainly, yes, protein. You see? That's why we had to study protein synthesis. That's the bulk of the life cycle of every cell. They make proteins. That's why you have to have protein in your diet. Otherwise, you're going to have ugly skin. Maybe ugly is not a nice word, but it will show everywhere. Because you need protein to make these components. Next, look at this. Adipose. Very easy to identify. I hope you won't have a hard time identifying this. And I always like to point, identify the structure under the pointer. You're going to write. What are you going to write?
It starts with a C.
What's that? That's it. It's fat. It's a fat droplet. So what organelle do you think would this be contained in? Inclusion bodies. What's the basic building blocks of this one?
Lipids.
Fatty acids. Fatty acids. Okay? There are two types of fat, brown fat and white fat. Brown fat is only found in babies, okay? The reason it's brown is it's very vascular and has a lot of mitochondria. Its cells will have a lot of mitochondria because the purpose of fat is stored energy, and when you burn it, right, you burn it, it gives off heat. And you know that babies, they can't reach out and get a blanket if they're cold. You've heard of stories of babies, some babies left in the dumpster and they didn't get discovered until maybe 1.5 days later, they're still alive. How was that possible? They have this, God made their fat so that it's able to give them the warmth they need. You know that you can die from hypothermia, right? That's why their fat is like that. For us, our fat is just really stored fat. We have to exercise to get rid of that fat. It's yellow fat or white fat, okay? There's no mitochondria there. So, like babies, all they need to do is just lay down, then they're burning the fat. Does that happen to you? No. I've never seen of anyone, right? Laying down, then they burn the fat. No. It's a different type of fat. Look at this other fat. This is your reticular connective tissue. You see those? This is your reticular fibers. Maybe I'll say, identify the structure under the pointer. Reticular fiber. Okay? Don't write collagen. This is reticular, so it's impossible to be collagen. It's reticular fiber. So maybe I'll say, what's the function of this one? It functions in filtering out your enemy forces or antigens, okay? Don't forget, when you're drawing, you're going to write specimen name, reticular fiber. Then specimen origin, let's say specimen name, reticular connective tissue. Specimen origin, you're going to write maybe liver, spleen, lymph nodes. Just one origin is good enough. And then for total magnification, 400, right? Okay. Let's look at this one. Connective tissue really is so varied in its appearance. Look at this. Now, you see a predominance of fibers. This is collagen or tendon. I think that's what I have in the microscope. That's how it looks like. Your tendons, it's collagen. It's connective tissue. This is muscle, but that's connective tissue, your tendon. And this is how it looks like under the microscope. This, train your eyes on the shape of the nucleus because this one looks like muscle also. The only way you can tell that it's not muscle is by looking at that nucleus. It's pointy. If it's pointy, it is connective tissue. It's tendon, okay, or collagen. So I say identify the structure under the pointer, collagen, okay. Next, you have.
So all the red stuff is collagen?
Yes, collagen fiber. Look at elastic connective tissue. See the elastic? Kinky fibers. If you see any wavy, kinky. By the way, in the lab exam, when you're answering and then the follow-up questions do not make sense, it must be you answered it wrong. So if it makes sense, then you feel good that you answered it correctly. But look at this one. You know what I want you to do for the elastic connective tissue? Please try and research everywhere in the body where you find elastic connective tissue. Because everywhere, that is the target of cigarette smoke damage, right? You know that people who smoke, they have that wrinkle in their face because you have elastic fiber right here. They will have wrinkles. Did you know that you also, look at this one, see? In your aorta, there's elastic fiber here. Now, I know that there's elastic fiber here. Look at, the heart is bigger than the aorta. You agree, right? You know what the aorta is, right? So when the heart pumps blood, do you agree? It's pumping all of that blood to the aorta, yes? To accommodate all of that blood, what does the aorta do? It has to stretch which is okay because it has this, right? But what if it's damaged? So it's damaged by cigarette smoke. What happens? Can it stretch? No. So what's the problem with smokers? They will become hypertensive, right? They will have an enlarged heart. Is that good? No, very dangerous, right? Are they candidates for stroke? Yes, because now this has hardened. So then we know that heart is thicker than water. Blood is thicker than water. So what will happen? There's a positive, an increased chance of what do you call this? Clotting over here, right? Then all it takes is one clot. Remember, positive feedback. Back, 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 back. Before you know it, they have a blockage. You see? All because of cigarette damage. Why? You inhale that, it's open all the way, all the way, all the way. Then you get to the lungs, the blood is going to pick up all of those chemicals that they inhale from the cigarette smoke. Where is that going to go? The chemicals, some of the chemicals are damaging to elastic fibers. So you want to research everywhere you find elastic fibers. That's going to be reached by the chemicals. All the chemicals need to do is get into your blood. Then it's going to go there. You see? That's why I like anatomy physiology. It helps me take care of myself. It helps me nag my husband, right? So he'll say, he has his earphones always when he's home. Okay? That's the secret to a long-lasting marriage. The husband wears the earphones. Okay, next. Now, you were raising your hand?
Oh, no.
Okay, so let's look at another type, another appearance of connective tissue. Look at this cartilage. It's also connective tissue. Now you should know another type of connective tissue cell, which is chondrocyte. So I see a lot of you bought that anatomy flashcards. That one has very nice pictures of tissues also. Very, very nice. Okay? But your lab manual, very nice. So this, I know it's cartilage because of, to me it looks like owl's eyes. I don't know. This is the chondrocyte and the nucleus is enclosed in a lacuna. So where's the ground substance? Right here. The most abundant fiber in cartilage is collagen. So you see, but this is the first type of cartilage, hyaline cartilage. This is the most common, most abundant. The ends of the long bones, right? You eat your chicken, then you have the ends of that chicken. That's hyaline cartilage. In your nose is hyaline cartilage. It's a bit solid, but still flexible a little bit. Okay? And it's clear. The ground substance is the composition or the ratio of ground substance to collagen fiber is equal. So it has like a smooth appearance. The fiber in hyaline cartilage is collagen. Look at this other type of cartilage called fibrocartilage. Oh, right here. See? Now you will see a roughness. I know this is cartilage because of the nucleus. There's that lacuna or the space that is very, very distinct or unique to cartilage. The nucleus is in like its own little island. You know it's cartilage. And you see the roughness, you say this is fibrocartilage, which is common in between your discs, intervertebral discs right here. So this one right here is fibrocartilage. It's mainly for support and stronger than your hyaline cartilage. The hyaline cartilage is mainly to prevent friction. It's smoother. So in your joints, there's hyaline cartilage there. Okay? Then look at this other type of cartilage called elastic cartilage. Now you will see some squiggly lines. That's your elastic fiber. So it says in your epiglottis, where's that one? You find it in your epiglottis, in your larynx. You know that the epiglottis, who works in the healthcare, you heard of endotracheal intubation, right? You look for that epiglottis. That's the flap. When, sometimes when you choke, the food went down the wrong pipe. That's because this didn't close properly. See? That's the epiglottis. So this is elastic. It's able to bend to close. When you're swallowing food, then it goes back. See? There's elastic fibers here too. So do you think that's going to be damaged by your cigarette smoke? Yes. So they're going to have problems maybe with their voice also, because there's elastic cartilage in your larynx. You see, sometimes they have
Deep voice.
yes, it changes. Their voice changes. And then when they eat, sometimes they have problems eating because that elastic fiber no longer able to flap. Go back. It needs elasticity. You see? Look at another type of connective tissue. Bone. Very easy. So, the best way to study your histology is to keep looking at the slides. But as you look at it, you will see that there's a lot of slides there very easy. Like bone is very easy. It really looks like that under the microscope. And now you're introduced to another cell, osteo. Anything that starts with osteo refers to bone. Okay? And what's the most abundant compound here is collagen, protein. It's protein. Bone is nothing but calcified protein. So maybe I'll ask, if this was going to it's made up of cells, right? And if the cells were going to divide, how many cells will be produced at the end of its cell division? How many? What? Yes, only 2, because this is a somatic cell. Which one will only produce 4? Isn't it only your sperm and your egg cell? So the answer is always 2. This is, what's the most abundant mineral here? That's a favorite question of mine. What's the most abundant mineral you find in bone? Yes, calcium. What vitamin is important for absorption of this mineral? D. Very good. Students write vitamin E, vitamin C. I think they forget. They just write whatever vitamin comes to their mind. Vitamin D. That's why all calcium supplements need to be taken with vitamin D. You cannot absorb calcium in the absence of vitamin D. Okay? So these cells, if they were not going to divide, in what phase do they stay? Interphase. So you should know the phases of cell division. Okay? Look at blood. This is also connective tissue. It's fluid. This blood we will study when we take up chapter 17. So this is a Bio 242 topic. But that's also connective tissue. Okay? The next tissue type, so break for 5 minutes, then we're going to finish up histology, then you do your drawings.
The girl that sits right here, next to this guy.
My computer, a girl moved.
Yeah, they're super detailed.
My computer, a girl moved to Israel, moved my bag out of the chair and took the chair. And she was on the top, and my computer dropped out of it onto the floor. And I was like,
2465.
and was like, my computer didn't work. And then we looked at it, and then she made sense that he would be my partner.